Hey everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to be covering the last exercise associated with this week's tutorial set, and the question says that we need to list the number of rooms in each hotel with more than 4 rooms that are located in Cairns. So having a look at the question, we see that, and for those of you that have been playing around with the hotel database, which you should have in all the previous tutorials, there's a very good chance when it says list the number of rooms that we're actually going to be performing some sort of an operation. And when I say some sort of or should I say an operation on a column or a group of columns. So when it says list the number of rooms, that sounds like a count function to me in each hotel with more than 4 rooms. So we'll start off just answering the first part. So we can actually build this SQL query in this instance in terms of the specifications from left to right. Often you don't have that privilege, you've got to start in the middle or somewhere else. So how about we list the number of rooms in each hotel. Now, for those of you who might not have done it, this is actually covered in last week's tutorial in one of the questions, and we're actually going to use a group by clause to do this. So for those of you that are familiar with it, this part is going to be very simple, and I'll just write out the SQL for it. So we're going to select the hotel number, and this will be, you'll see why it's R in a second, hotel number, comma, count all as number from room as R, room as R, and we're going to group by dot hotel number. Okay, so this is essentially the sort of query that we got up to in the last tutorial, whereby if we have a look at all the results in or the records I should say, sorry, in the room table, so select all from room. What's going to happen now is in the background it's going to take this full data set and it's going to separate it into individual bags, and in those individual bags they're going to have all of the H1s in one, all of the H2s in another, all of the H3s, etc. And the reason why it's going to have all the H1s, H2s and H3s is because it wants us, using this group by clause, what it actually does is it separates them into separate sets and each set has a common element. And in this case the common element that we force it to have by the group by clause is the hotel number. So like I said, the first bag will have all the hotel 1 stuff, the second bag all the hotel 2 stuff, etc, etc. We're then going to perform an operation on each of these individual bags, and when I say bags I just mean like subsets of the table, if you will, is we're going to perform a count function. So in the first bag, which should have say the H1s, if we assume that the first bag has the H1s, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that corresponds to the number of rooms that are located in the hotel. So for the first one we should have 5, for the second one we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth and so forth. So we're going to be able to know what hotel number matches up because we've got that listed in our select statement. Now one thing that you do have to be careful of, and this is one thing I definitely want to mention, whenever you're dealing with a group by clause, just as a general, not as an absolute rule, but as a general rule, you should only ever have listed in terms of what you select the columns that you've grouped by. So you can have as many functions as you want. We could be counting, comma average, comma this, that, and the other. You can have as many of those as you want. But in terms of like the fields or the columns that you select, they should only be what has been done in the group by clause. So let's just run this. Forgive me, this computer's a little bit slow. So we're going to read this file, and that's located in this directory for me. Week 4, or have I set? Yeah, question 1, part 4.sql. Enter, and you'll see that it's come up with a set of results whereby for each hotel it's calculated the number of rooms, and that's been the way that it's calculated the number of rooms. This is just counted up the number of records. So like i.e. for H7 here we've got 3, and that matches up to the number of records in the room table that has H7 within it in the hotel number. Okay, so we've answered that first little part of the question, and that's like essentially what we did last week, or that's where we got to. So we're going to add a further condition to this, which says that I've got this result, that's all nice and sweet, but what if I want to add a condition onto that? So what if I'm only interested in this situation whereby the number of rooms, or I'm interested in imposing that I only care about the results whereby the number of rooms is greater than 4. Now, one way of doing this would be to take this data set, save it as another table, and then do a select statement where number of rooms is greater than 4. But SQL allows you to filter a group by statement, like an overall group by statement or result, using a having clause. So you know how we usually filter by a where clause? Well, when you've done a calculation using a group by, after that has happened, which is what we want to do, so we want to do a filtration on this data set, so after this has been calculated, we can use the having clause. So I'm going to get rid of that semicolon there, and in this case, we want the condition that we want is we want the number of rooms, which is found using count, to be greater than 4. So you could, I'm not sure if you can actually write number of rooms is greater than 4 there. That could work, but I'm not going to bother testing it out. What will definitely work is this statement that we've got here, having count of all, which represents in this case number of rooms, greater than 4. So having a look at the results that we've got here, obviously all the 5s are going to remain there. The 2 that are going to be filtered out is the last 2, which is H6 and H7. So let's just save this. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We'll save this. We'll run the query. Incomplete. So what have I done wrong here? I have not put a semicolon at the end. My apologies. Save. Okay, and it's done exactly what we wanted it to do. It's gotten rid of the last 2 because obviously 2 and 3 is not greater than 4. It's less than 4. Right, so now we've answered this part of the question up until here. We now want to include this further condition, which says that we only want to include those results which are located in Cairns. So we've got H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. Which ones are located in Cairns, I'm not sure. But just to have a quick look, we'll have a look in the hotel table to see. So select, and we'll get the hotel, we'll only get the hotel numbers out. From hotel, where, and the condition I'll put on obviously is where city is equal to Cairns. So out of this hotel table, I'm just going to select the hotel number, and the condition I'm putting is that the city is equal to Cairns. Okay, and the 3 that we've got there, and let's just verify that, just for anyone who's interested, just to make sure that that query is definitely correct. It is correct, but yeah, let's be sure. We've got H1, H6, and H7, which matches up perfectly. So now we've got H1, H6, and H7. So out of these results here, we only want to include those that are from Cairns, and we now know that 2, 3, 4, and 5 are definitely not in Cairns. Only really out of this result, the only row that should be included, or when we finish our SQL, will be this H1 because that's the only one that's located in Cairns. Now you could use a nested query for this, and I'll quickly go through in the end well actually, if people request it, I'll do up another video and I'll show you how to do it as a nested query. But what we're going to do in continuation with the other questions is we're going to use a join. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the 2 tables obviously that we're interested in at this point in time, which is the room table and the hotel table. The column that I'm going to combine it over, obviously in this situation, remember we always combine, or generally always combine over primary keys and foreign keys, which are the underlined ones in this database schema outline. So we're going to be combining over the hotel number. Okay, so we're going to be getting it from hotel, I'll call that as H obviously. We're going to be matching it over the hotel number, so r.hotel number is equal to h.hotel number, and the further condition to that. So now that we've combined these 2 tables, we can now put a condition on the hotel table. And remember in that previous query that I had up here, we have where city is equal to Cairns, so we're now going to impose that condition. So remember, if we want to have multiple wheres, we don't write where, we just write the first one as where, and then we separate each of them by and. So and then in this case, h.city is equal to Cairns. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that semicolon there. That semicolon's perfectly fine there. So, okay, that looks absolutely perfect to me. So what we're going to do, just quickly explaining in terms of how it's changed from before, we're now merging this, before we do the count, by the way, in this group by stuff, we're going to merge these 2 tables. We're going to merge them based upon, so that they have the same hotel number, and we're only going to include the hotels that are located in Cairns. So, if this result is correct, or should I say if this SQL query is correct, the way that it should change this result is that only H1 should be included. Because remember from what we did before, these are the 3 that are located in Cairns, H1, H6 and H7. Well, this should be the only one that's included, because 2, 3, 4 and 5 are clearly not in Cairns. So let's just save that, and I'll run it. So we want to run the SQL query, and there you have it. So now we've got it to produce the results based upon the full query specifications. And just going over that again, this was selecting, it was counting up the number of rooms associated with each hotel, and then it imposed that further condition that it only included when the count was greater than 4. So that's what that part was done. We then extended it so that we included the hotel table as a join, matched it up over the hotel number, which is the field that we had to match it up on, and we were able to filter it so that we only included those that were from Cairns. Or in converting that into SQL language in this situation, that was when h.city, so when the city field in the hotel table is equal to Cairns, and we got the result that was desired. So I understand that this can be a bit daunting at the start, and you know, my best piece of advice when you're trying to learn this is practice. It really is repetition. Repetition does work in a lot of SQL. The more you do of it, the more it'll start to click. Because I know at the start some of the things can be very obtuse in the way that they're explained, because it is very difficult to understand some of these things. So what I recommend you doing is by, well, one, obviously watching these videos I hope is helping, but two, you know, there's a textbook that is recommended on the website. There's a number of websites. My favorite in particular is w3schools.com. They have a listing whereby they have just a series of tutorials for many different things, but they do have an SQL one, and often I'll forget what does that function do again? What does this function do again? My first port of call 9 out of 10 times is to jump onto w3schools.com and check out exactly how it's done there. So that's just one recommendation. There could be thousands of other good references out there, and I'm sure there are, but there's two that definitely work. But anyway, just to close off this video, I hope you've understood that. I hope that's maybe made it a little bit easier to understand. I hope I haven't confused you any further. And as with all the other videos, if you have any suggestions, if you're not sure about how I've done things, please email me, let me know, and I'll try and get back to you as quick as possible. Okay, bye.